Hello, and welcome to today's video. We are going to explore a deeply troubling and tragic story from the world of healthcare, the story of Harold Shipman, one of the most infamous serial killers in modern history. His crimes, his methods, and the systemic failures that allowed him to continue for so long are haunting and deeply impactful. In this video, we will go into the details of Shipman's life, his medical career, and the shocking reality of his crimes. So, settle in, and let us take a deep, analytical look into the case of Harold Shipman. Harold Frederick Shipman was born on January 14, 1946, in Nottingham, England. He grew up in a working-class family, and his childhood was marked by some significant challenges. His mother, who was a strict and somewhat overbearing figure, died of lung cancer when Harold was just 17 years old. This loss had a profound impact on him and would later be scrutinized by experts trying to understand his motivations. Shipman went on to study medicine at Leeds School of Medicine, graduating in 1970. He initially worked in a variety of hospitals before settling into a more stable role as a general practitioner, GP. This was in 1974, when he began working in the small town of Todmorden, in West Yorkshire. As a doctor, Shipman quickly became known for his competence and dedication to his patients. He established a reputation for being a caring, empathetic physician who would go to great lengths to treat his patients. Shipman was known to make house calls, a practice that made him seem especially trustworthy and compassionate in the eyes of his community. But behind this facade, there was something far darker at play. In his role as a GP, Shipman had unfettered access to vulnerable patients, many of whom were elderly or suffering from chronic illnesses. This gave him the perfect opportunity to manipulate and ultimately take advantage of their trust. Though Shipman's career as a GP seemed exemplary on the surface, things began to unravel in the 1990s. Between 1975 and 1998, Shipman is believed to have murdered at least 250 patients, though the true number remains unclear. His preferred method of killing was administering lethal doses of diamorphine, a powerful opioid commonly used in pain management. Diamorphine is a drug that, when used properly, can provide comfort to terminally ill patients. But in Shipman's hands, it became a tool of death. He often injected his patients with the drug, causing them to go into respiratory failure and die quietly, sometimes within minutes of the injection. Initially, Shipman's patients' deaths were attributed to natural causes, given their age or underlying health conditions. However, by the late 1990s, suspicions began to rise. Some of the deaths occurred with unusual regularity. For example, several patients would die suddenly in the same way, with no clear explanation for their passing. In some cases, the families of the deceased began to notice that Shipman was the last doctor to see their loved ones alive, or that their deaths had been certified without any post-mortem investigation. The breakthrough came in 1998, when a local undertaker named John Shaw raised concerns about Shipman's involvement in the death of a patient named Kathleen Grundy. She was an affluent woman in her 80s who had recently died under Shipman's care. What made her death suspicious was not just the fact that she had died at home, but that Shipman had signed her death certificate and administered her final dose of medication, without any apparent cause for alarm. What really caught people's attention was when investigators discovered that Shipman had forged Kathleen Grundy's will, making himself the sole beneficiary of her estate. This raised serious ethical questions, and soon, a formal investigation was launched into Shipman's activities. Following this lead, authorities began to review Shipman's previous patients' medical records, and they quickly discovered a pattern of suspicious deaths. In 1999, after an extensive investigation, Shipman was arrested and charged with 15 counts of murder and 1 count of forgery. Shipman's trial began in October of 1999, and it quickly became one of the most high-profile criminal cases in British history. The prosecution argued that Shipman had used his position as a trusted medical professional to systematically kill his patients over a period of years. During the trial, Shipman's defense team tried to argue that the deaths were simply a result of medical malpractice or natural causes. However, the evidence against him was overwhelming. The prosecution presented expert testimony, showing that the number of patients who had died under Shipman's care was far higher than would be expected. Furthermore, the pattern of deaths, all sudden, unexplainable, and accompanied by Shipman's involvement, was too consistent to ignore. In January of 2000, Shipman was found guilty of 15 counts of murder and 1 count of forgery. He was sentenced to life in prison, without the possibility of parole. The judge described his actions as a betrayal of the trust placed in him by his patients, their families, and the public. Harold Shipman's case left deep scars in the medical community and among the public. After his conviction, many people began questioning the systems in place to monitor medical professionals. How did a trusted doctor manage to kill so many people over so many years without anyone noticing? The investigation into Shipman's crimes led to widespread changes in medical oversight, including the introduction of stricter regulations surrounding the prescription of controlled substances, as well as more careful scrutiny of doctors' activities. One of the most significant outcomes was the Shipman Inquiry, which examined how Shipman was able to evade detection. The inquiry found that multiple institutions had failed to notice the alarming pattern of deaths, and that Shipman had been allowed to continue practicing despite warning signs. These findings prompted changes in both the healthcare system and the way in which medical professionals are monitored in the UK. Harold Shipman's story is one of deep tragedy. Not only did he take the lives of at least 250 innocent people, but he also abused the trust placed in him as a doctor. His crimes have forever changed the way healthcare professionals are regulated, and his legacy remains a dark chapter in both British medical history and the broader narrative of criminal psychology. Thank you for watching. If you would like to learn more about other cases like this or want to discuss the impact of such tragedies on the healthcare system, feel free to leave a comment below. Do not forget to subscribe for more deep dives into history's most complex stories. Until next time, take care.